And here we are again. Another new Xbox, another Halo release. With so many other great shooters to choose from, does this release have enough to stand out from the crowd?
Or does nostalgia for the Halo franchise blinds to the fact that this game has its fair share of flaws while bringing really nothing new to the table?
Will it dethrone our current favorite FPS? Or is it dead on arrival? Let's find out in our second ever triple review.
I can't hear Bgame. The most obvious difference between the game a year ago and the game now after its delay are the graphics. The visuals and overall aesthetic are fantastic. Things to call out here are a much more fine-tuned lighting engine and higher fidelity of all assets. Across the board, the Spartan armor, gamut of weaponry, vehicles and maps all have much higher detail in them and look thoroughly refined. And the game overall has this clean-cut look to it, while also borrowing design cues from some of the past Halo titles. Speaking of clean-cut, the menus look slick and minimal, and this includes some great background visuals, as seen with the Spartans in your current party lounging in a hangar as you matchmake. However, looking good doesn't always mean it functions perfectly, with certain aspects of the UI being almost too light on information. This is most apparent when trying to figure out who exactly is in your party, with the game sometimes lagging to show if a friend joined or not. As for the maps, well, I really enjoy the majority of them, with my top favorite being Streets, and its neon city, almost Blade Runner vibe. For the most part, the maps all have a very good flow to them, with multiple lanes and elevations to engage gunfights in. Having said that, I'm not a huge fan of either Aquarius, which feels overly complicated, and then Behemoth, which on the flip side seems too open and simple. Finally, I highly dislike how the power weapons have been placed around the maps, and this is within modules scattered across various walls. This makes the guns sometimes hard to spot, and it becomes especially frustrating during frantic engagements.
I'd have to agree with the graphics looking crisp. It was very easy to get lost in the customization screens. The attention to detail that went into the creation of the different armor pieces and armor sets, especially like the past heroes of Reach, they look fantastic. Like Massive said, all the maps look great and are very well designed. I haven't played all of the maps yet, but they seem to stick to a traditional 3-lane design while having various changes in elevation that keep them exciting. The only real gripes that I have in terms of graphics come from the Battle Pass. It's blatantly apparent that a lot of work went into the graphics of this game. Maps look amazing, the armor looks fantastic, and then towards the end of the Battle Pass you have the flame effects armor as an unlock. And maybe it's just me, but with all the attention to detail that has been put into the game, the flame effects look ridiculous, and it really takes away from the fact that you just spent all that time grinding for a special effect that looks pretty dumb.
Yeah, the Flame Effects just called me Bgame. They said they think you look dumb. And then they said, Flames rule! Bgame rules! And hung up. You better watch it back. You'll get a third vote for graphics look good from old Jet. I wasn't blown away, but comparing to the likes of Apex, Halo Infinite looks better than that. But the graphics don't hold a candle to the latest installments of COD, or even Destiny 2 in my book. I'd classify Infinite's graphics as gamey looking, versus COD's realistic look and Destiny 2's pretty look. As for the UI, it wasn't great in my opinion. I ran into some of the same bugs where it wouldn't show when people joined my party, or it would show keyboard button prompts even though I was using a controller. To clarify, I played on PC most of the time. I also thought the UI was laid out poorly in some ways. For example, I shouldn't have to back out of the multiplayer screen, then navigate to Armor Hall in order to change the color of my Spartan's armor. It should be easily accessible while waiting for a match to queue up within the multiplayer screen. The gameplay feels smooth at the very least, I'll give it that. But when I compare it to, say, Destiny 2, which in my opinion has the best shooting mechanics on the market, something's definitely lacking, and I think it's aim assist. Now, I'm no MLG level player, but I'm fairly good at FPSs, way better than Massive for sure, and Destiny 2 is my bread and butter. The ease with which you can land crits in Destiny 2 makes the moment-to-moment gunplay feel so smooth and crispy. And when I compare it to Infinite, I can really feel that lack of aim assist. Call me a noob or whatever else, but for my personal taste, this game definitely feels like it needs more aim assist. To be fair, as I poured more hours into it and racked up more matches, I did start to get a feel for Halo Infinite. My kills and KDA started to go up, and I was able to get into a groove with it. Once I got to that point, it did start to feel pretty good, and I didn't want to stop queuing into matches that particular night. But it took hours to get there. And that's from a guy who plays Destiny 2 most nights of the week. Seems like I just gave Halo Infinite the faintest compliment there. To tip the scales back into the favor of how I really feel about it, here are several things that suck. Audio cues are terrible. People right next to you don't register footsteps, or they sound real far away. The radar is doo-doo. Just do radar like Destiny 2. At a certain threshold, you will automatically show up on the map, regardless of if you're crouching or not sprinting. The rocket launcher comes with too much ammo. Weapons have an inconsistent kill time. For example, sometimes it takes 2 shots to kill with the shotgun, sometimes it's 3 or 4, and it seems completely random. And I have one more complaint. I saved the best for last. The TTK is atrociously long. It's easily the worst part of Halo Infinite multiplayer. I know this is entirely subjective and some people enjoy the TTK, likening it to classic Halo, but I absolutely hate it. And I used to be in that camp too, but that was literally 20 years ago. My tastes have evolved. For real guys, like, I can't count the number of times that I would lay into someone, get them nearly dead, just to have them hide behind a wall at the last second and survive. I also ran into the thing where you spend an entire clip on someone, hit every shot, and they don't die, leaving enough time for their teammate to come around the corner and kill me. Not fun.
So going into this, I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack, but the game doesn't feel that great to me. Does it feel smooth? Yeah, it does feel smooth. I honestly can't recall one point in time where there's any sort of lag or glitch or anything that would negatively affect gameplay. While the game has that going for it, the overall feel of the game just wasn't that great. Movement seems way too slow. When you compare this side to side with any of the modern day shooters, COD, Apex, D2, there's no denying that Halo is ridiculously slow. This fact only gets compounded by the fact that your super slow movement makes it damn near impossible to avoid the typical 8 grenades that are constantly being thrown at you. Can you guess what the next problem is? Not only do you always spawn in with 2 grenades, but upon spawning you need only walk 4-ish feet to the nearest wall mount that has an additional 2 grenades ready and waiting. This sort of grenade simulator does not help promote gunplay, since the typical tactic involves throwing grenades, followed by throwing more grenades. Having come from Destiny as well, I was initially kind of thrown back by the lack of aim assist when it came to gunfights. However, after playing through it, I actually came to like the fact that everyone didn't have the game connecting their shots for them. Now, while I did come to appreciate the emphasis on actual gun skill in terms of accuracy, that's about as far as I was able to appreciate the gunplay. I don't understand, and this is, going into the whole Halo lore, how Master Chief can survive a fall from orbit. However, some kid across the map hip firing me completely takes me out of ADS. Fun fact, rounds from a battle rifle hit a lot harder than falling from orbit. The fact that the game actually punishes you for aiming down sights by outright taking you out of it for being hit by one bullet where you're left in a kind of unable to do anything. And yes, it is only a slight moment, but it's from someone hip firing you from across the map. Further adds to my just absolute disdain of the gunplay. Hey, I used a big word. And kind of just to reiterate what Jet was saying, who on the dev team thought that an 8-minute TTK was a good idea? Who was playtesting and was like, yeah, an entire mag minimum seems like the correct amount of bullets to get a kill?
So, like the two scrubs have already mentioned, there is very little to no aim assist, which I didn't mind at all. And honestly, it's least problem.
I'll 1v1 your now. Stop the recording.
Excuse me. Here's a concept.
Destiny up still.
Good aim rewards kills. And also why 343 added a shooting range to practice.
So, with that said, let's move on to the game's actual problems, which lie in the often atrocious spawns with enemies appearing right behind you, especially in Slayer. This is further emphasized by the awful radar, which seems to only work if an enemy is within 5 inches of you. At that point, why even have a radar? And you might think if the radar is useless, then maybe the sound cues can help pinpoint enemies. Well, wrong again. These walking tanks are completely silent as they rush you down a lane. Now, let's talk about your arsenal. Guns feel fairly good. That is, as long as you're wielding a UNSC branded one. Outside of that, the offerings from the Covenant and Brutes all feel wonky at best. With that said, the MVP of all the weapons, all the marbles, is by far the grenades. There is so many grenades. The spamming of grenades is endless and pairs oh so well with the awful spawns. This many times results in just instant death as you see 3 grenades flying at your face before you can even move. With these issues in mind, the gameplay became stale real quick for me.
As it stands right now, there are basically 2 game modes, quick play and ranked. Both modes as of right now are in RNG of what mode you're actually going to get, where ranked is obviously supposed to be your more competitive option. I hope moving forward that we're actually given the opportunity to actually choose what game mode we want to play instead of the kind of RNG playlist that we have now, because let's be serious, nobody really wants to play oddball. It also kind of seems as though Slayer, aka Deathmatch, doesn't really come up quite as often as it should. As far as the Battle Pass goes, there's quite a bit of controversy surrounding this at the launch. The amount of XP that you were awarded per game didn't really scale well with how much XP was actually required to rank up. This problem went so far as people playing non-stop for an entire weekend and only being able to climb 2 ranks of the 100 rank Battle Pass. Now, to their credit, 343 has since made adjustments to the amount of XP to be more generous. Short of that, the Battle Pass is what you would typically find in a Battle Pass. Rank up to earn X reward, and purchase the Premium Battle Pass to earn X and Y rewards, where Y is obviously the cooler reward. I typically don't like this type of money grab, especially in games where there's no actual use for said items, since everything you can actually earn is just aesthetics. If you decide that you don't want to grind out the levels for the Battle Pass, but you still want that new piece of armor or that atrocious flame effect for your shoulder/helmet, I hate those, you can always just buy the levels outright on the pass, further proving the point that the whole thing is trivial anyways.
Bgame, the flame effects just called me again and said, No, you. To me, all Battle Pass systems suck, and Halo Infinite is no exception. There's nothing in the pass that I care to obtain, just a bunch of cosmetic stuff. And since I don't have a dog in this race, I don't care how fast or slow the progression is. But if I did care, I'd probably be pissed at the initial progression rate as well. And as for game modes, I'll get straight to the point. I only like Slayer. Why the hell is there no way to choose which type of game mode you want to play? I think we should group CTF, Oddball, and Stronghold into one objective mode playlist, and then just have Slayer on its own separately. I think that's probably the best way to go. And to speak a little bit on Ranked, I don't know why 343 Industries thought it was a good idea to make Ranked also have random game modes. No, 343. Ranked is quote-unquote serious, and it should be a set game mode that doesn't involve objectives.
Playing objective-based modes with randoms who have no mics is never a fun experience. This included. You're essentially setting yourself up to get steamrolled by a 4-stack about 90% of the time. So to be blunt, 343 just needs to add a Slayer list separate from the other objective types. And while they're at it, bring back some of the classics, like shoddy snipers. My bigger complaint here is the Battle Pass. I absolutely hate this Battle Pass. The whole progression experience just feels bad. All I can think about is how in past Halos, most unlockables were part of the base game and obtained by playing well and ranking up. Now, all of this is cut into the smallest slices possible and drip-fed across seasons. To make matters worse, most of the gear shown so far are upgrades and armors available in past titles. So what should have been done here is offer a segment of legacy gear unlocks, including all the armors, emblems, and colors from past games available through a classic progression system. Then on top of this, add the Battle Pass. This is what would feature brand new gear such as the samurai armor.
I'll kick off the game comparisons with, you guessed it, Destiny 2. If my Xbox Museum stats are anything to go by, it's pretty clear that I really like Destiny 2. For me, there's no comparison. Destiny 2 is still the king of gameplay and feel. Nothing beats the crispiness of hitting that perfect 3-tap with my trusty Ace of Spades hand cannon. Now don't get me wrong, Destiny 2 has its fair share of faults, which we just might be getting into in a future video, hint hint, but it still feels superior to Halo Infinite multiplayer in my opinion.
Oh, my trusty Ace of Spades. Oh, let me check my games played in the last 5 years. Oh my god, it's Destiny.
I like Battlefield 2042.
Excuse me, I'm talking now.
For me, this feels probably closest to something like Quake or maybe Apex, with how the guns handle and how engagements pan out. And both of those have never really been my cup of tea. In addition, this just feels different from older Halo titles, which honestly I kind of miss.
To me, and I've never been a fan of the Halo PvP experience. I've loved all the Halo games for their story. The stories have always been amazing. I've always hated their PvP because, like I had previously mentioned, I feel like it's too slow. I don't have anything to compare this to. It feels like a Halo game to me, which is partly why I hate it so much. We kind of compared it to Apex and Destiny and COD and this and that, but the fact of the matter is all those games are way faster paced, faster gameplay, faster TTK, Don't get me wrong, the guns feel great in Halo, but it just feels like another Halo. It doesn't feel like they added anything. It feels reminiscent of classic Halo, which is why I don't like it. Oddly enough, I recently found myself discussing the game with a coworker. I'd asked him if he had actually kept up with the game after the surprise launch. Now the discussion quickly turned into a back and forth where I expressed my frustrations with the game, and he very quickly countered with how good it was. The one line that he said that had really stuck with me was, "You don't know good Halo."
You don't know good Halo, Bgame.
Now right away I began to wonder if he was actually right. Was I being too biased? Was I actually trying to remain objective and give the game a fair review? Now this is where my idea of nostalgia comes into play. We all loved Halo back in the day. Halo is where most of us got our first taste of PvP, and we were forever hooked. But does that mean that Halo was a great game, PvP-wise? Or were we just being completely wrapped up in what was actually available? Right now, Destiny 2 is going through an overhaul where ability spam in PvP is being dramatically toned down to emphasize more gunplay, rightfully so. The community agreed that ability spam was a pain point in the PvP experience. Yet these same people playing Halo claim that they have no problem whatsoever throwing no less than 60 grenades in a single match. This train of logic makes zero sense, and the only conclusion that I can come up for it is, oh my god, it's Halo, I love Halo, I used to play Halo back in the day, and now I have Halo back, and I'm so happy. The fact of the matter is, the game runs great, there's no denying that, but it has huge problems with it that are completely ignored because it feels like a classic Halo game. The game sports an abysmal TTK, followed by grenade spam, followed by the fact that you're outright penalized for trying to aim down sights, and this does not create a fun experience in my opinion. Will I play Halo again? Yeah, absolutely. If I have friends that are on and want to play it, I'll more than likely jump in for a few rounds. Am I excited for the campaign to drop? Yes, absolutely yes. Like I've said before, while I dislike the multiplayer, I've always loved the campaigns, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. Would I suggest this game to people? Yes and no. The multiplayer is free, so yeah, absolutely, give it a try. I mean, there's no reason not to. It's free. And who knows, maybe you have a different experience than I did. I just think that everyone really needs to do some serious evaluating and figure out if they like the game because it's good, or if they like it simply because it's Halo.
This is going to be divisive as heck. For the most part, you either enjoy this game as it stands or you don't. Overall, I don't like Halo Infinite multiplayer, and if you're like me and you love the feel of Destiny or other shooters with a shorter time to kill, you might feel the same. There are glimpses of a great multiplayer experience here and there, but the game has too many cons at this point, and I don't enjoy most of my time in it. If a friend wanted to play, I'd probably pick it up for a few rounds, but other than that, I don't think I'll be booting it up out of my own will to play it. I don't recommend it.
It's worth mentioning that the multiplayer portion of this game is free to play. With that in mind, I do think there is some fun to be had here, especially if you matchmake with some friends and jump into a game of big team battle for some shenanigans. This, however, also brings me to my last takeaway, and that is I can't take this game too seriously, at least not the way I did back with Halo 1, 2, and 3. With all the different shooters to pick from currently, not even the Chief can push this to the top of my list.
Well, look at that. Another triple review in the books. Bravo us. This is only our second video ever, so we would sure love to know what you think in the comments, as well as if you have any suggestions for future videos. Consider subscribing if you liked what you saw, and until next time, this has been Jet, Massive, and Bgame. We'll catch you in the next one.
I'm very tired, guys. It's a big Bgame went to sleep. Cut.
Do it massive. Do it.